Hello Mishpacha, it's Courtney, America's Jewish Mother. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am filming a birthday book haul. Yesterday, May 12th, was my birthday. I turned 34, and several of my friends very kindly sent me books as gifts that I would like to share with you today. Now, if you've watched any of my previous videos, you may notice that I am filming in a different location than I have in my other videos. And the reason for that is because I've traveled from Georgia to North Carolina to spend the rest of the summer at my parents' house. So I'm filming this from my childhood bedroom. So yes, this will be my location for probably the rest of the videos throughout the summer. But on to the books. So, Lindsey from Lindsey's Book Life first asked me a couple of weeks ago what books on my TBR I didn't already own, so she might send me a gift or something like that for my birthday. And I sent her 5 books thinking that, maybe she'd get me like 2 or 3 of them. She got me all 5, you guys. Lindsey, you're the best. Thank you, heart. You're amazing. So these are the books that she sent me. The first one is Minor Feelings by Cathy Park Hong. This is a pretty recent publication. I first heard about Cathy Park Hong in doing research for my article that I'm working on Harriet Mullen. And she wrote an article about racism in avant-garde poetry called Delusions of Whiteness in the Avant-Garde. And I read that article and thought it was so smart and so sharp that when I saw she was coming out with a book, I was like, well, I have to read this. So here's a little bit about it. Poet and essayist Cathy Park Hong fearlessly and provocatively blends memoir, cultural criticism, and history to expose fresh truths about racialized consciousness in America. Part memoir and part cultural criticism, this collection is vulnerable, humorous, and provocative, and its relentless and riveting pursuit of vital questions around family and friendship, art and politics, identity and individuality will change the way you think about our world. So I am so looking forward to reading this. Thank you so much, Lindsey. The second book that Lindsey sent me was Housemaid of Dawn by Momaday. Now, I knew about this book already, but I put it on my TBR after thinking about possibly adding more Native authors to the list of books that I teach in literature courses. And this one is fairly short, and it's also pretty seminal in terms of the Native American Renaissance. And Momaday pretty much originated the Native American Renaissance in literature. I think this book was published around 1968. So this is the blurb on the back. A young Native American, Abel, has come home to New Mexico from war to find himself caught between 2 worlds. The first is the world of his grandfathers, wedding him to the rhythm of the seasons, the harsh beauty of the land, and the ancient rites and traditions of his people. But the other world, modern industrial America, pulls at Abel, demanding his loyalty, claiming his soul, and goading him into a destructive, compulsive cycle of depravity and despair. An American classic now reissued with a new preface from Momaday, Housemaid of Dawn is at once a tragic tale about the disabling effects of war and cultural separation, and a hopeful story of a stranger in his native land finding his way back to all that is familiar and sacred. So, definitely looking forward to reading this and some more Native authors in the future. The next book Lindsey very kindly sent me was Louise Erdrich's Tracks, which is also a book that I like Louise Erdrich a lot, and I really enjoyed her book, The Last Report on the Miracles at Little No Horse, and she's someone who I would like to read more of her backlist. And this was also a book that I was considering teaching at some point in the future because it's relatively on the shorter side. I really don't like to give students in literature classes because it's mostly survey lit where I teach sophomores. I really don't like to give them books to read that are longer than about 250 pages because I think they lose interest after a while. So anyway, I was considering putting this on my teaching schedule, like I said, at some point in the future. So and also Louise Erdrich, I want to read more of her work, so that's why this made its way onto my TBR. So the summary of this says, set in North Dakota at a time in the past century when Indian tribes were struggling to keep what little remained of their lands, Tracks is a tale of passion and deep unrest. Over the course of 10 crucial years, as tribal land and trust between people erode ceaselessly, men and women are pushed to the brink of their endurance, yet their pride and humor prohibit surrender. The reader will experience shock and pleasure in encountering characters that are compelling and rich in their vigor, clarity, and indomitable vitality. Let me see when this was published, because I'm not actually sure. This was published in 1988. So again, thank you, Lindsey. I appreciate your commitment to helping me read more Native writers. The next book she sent me was Carol Anderson's White Rage. And if you watched my April wrap-up, you know that I recently read Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility and really liked it and spoke very highly of it. I gave it 4.5 stars. And this book precedes White Fragility. It's by a different author, but I think on a somewhat similar topic. The Unspoken Truth of Our Racial Divide. So this is what it says on the back of this one. Since 1865 and the passage of the 13th Amendment, every time African Americans have made advances toward full participation in our democracy, white reaction has fueled a deliberate, relentless rollback of any gains. Carefully linking historical flashpoints from post-Civil War black codes to expressions of white rage after the election of America's first black president, Anderson renders visible the long lineage of white rage and the different names under which it hides. Compelling and dramatic in the unimpeachable history it relates, white rage adds a vital new dimension to the national conversation about race in America. So yeah, I feel like between having already read White Fragility and planning to read this and planning to read Cathy Park Hong's Minor Feelings in Asian American Reckoning, I'm going to have a lot of good cultural criticism about race and racism in America to make my way through. So again, thank you, Lindsey. And then the last book that Lindsey sent me for my TBR was We Want to Do More Than Survive, Abolitionist Teaching in the Pursuit of Educational Freedom by Bettina L. Love. This was actually recommended to me by one of my former colleagues in graduate school, Julia, who studies a lot about Black feminism. And I really don't know anything about it except that she recommended it to me. And so I thought, all right, I'll put it in my TBR. So this is what it says. Drawing on her life's work of teaching and researching in urban schools, Bettina Love persuasively argues that educators must teach students about racial violence, oppression, and how to make sustainable change in their communities through radical civic initiatives and movements. Love shows that to achieve educational freedom, not merely reform, teachers, parents, and community leaders must approach education with the imagination, determination, boldness, and urgency of an abolitionist. Following in the tradition of activists like Ella Baker, Bayard Rustin, and Fannie Lou Hamer, We Want to Do More Than Survive introduces an alternative to traditional modes of educational reform and expands our ideas of civic engagement and intersectional justice. Okay, that sounds great because it sounds like this book is going to be providing me as a teacher with some tools that I can use to enact some form of anti-racist pedagogy in the classroom, and I am 100% here for that. So again, thank you so much, Lindsey. You are so kind. Okay, and then the other book that I was very kindly sent for my birthday was by my former dissertation chair and advisor, Miriam Clark, who very kindly sent me this collection of poetry called Forage by Rose McLarney, and she really enjoyed it, and I recently asked her for poetry recommendations so I could read more poetry, and she sent me a list and then also sent me this. So this says, Rose McLarney has won attention as a poet of impressive insight and craft. Her third collection, Forage, offers considerations of the natural world and humans' place within it in eco-poetry of both ambitious reach and elegant refinement. At the confluence of these intricately sequenced poems is a social commentary that goes beyond lamenting environmental degradation and disaster to record and augment the beauty of the world in which we live. And isn't this cover beautiful? I think it's so pretty. And I've already looked to see that the first poem in this book is short, so I will read it to you. And the title of this poem is a quotation from Virgil that says, "What need have I for loftier song to sing? In the subdivision, walk looking at the pavement for spatterings and pits. These from falling plums no one will pick, not in this setting. In this setting, but still in the season for fruit, with something to feed on. Walk looking down so as to know when to look up." So I am also looking forward to getting to this at some point. So this concludes my birthday book haul. These were all the books that people so nicely sent me for my birthday. So again, thank you so much, Lindsey, and thank you, Miriam. I am so looking forward to reading these books. I hope that you all are staying healthy and well. I hope you're also doing good reading. I'm going to insert a clip at the end here of my dog being adorable. But until next time, would it kill you to call you mother?